So these days, football clubs seem to have the obsession with updating their club badges every once in a while. What I thought we'd do for today's video is look at every Championship club's new badge compared to their old one and see which one's better. Welcome back to another video on the channel. Bit of a fun one coming at you today. If we could hit 350 likes, that would be massively appreciated. I also want to know from you guys in the comments down below, do you prefer the badge you've got now or your more traditional one from your club? Let me know down below who's got the best and worst badge in the Championship. But without any further ado, let's jump into this one. Starting out with Barnsley, and this in my opinion is the right way to modernise a traditional badge. They've taken the original and put a modern spin on it, putting it into that shield. It's got the red trimmings that go around it, the Barnsley FC as well, and overall it's a good looking modern badge for me. I think they've done well to sort of modernise this one. They've got a coal miner and a glass blower on the badge to represent their historical importance to the town, and overall I do think I prefer the modern version because they've put a bit of a spin on what was already a good badge. Next then to Birmingham, who have had their new badge since around about the 1970s, so not all too new, but you know what, I quite like this one from Birmingham. It's got the globe, it's got the football underneath there, and compared to their old one, which is just a combination of the letters that make up, you know, BCFC, that's another point for the new badges for me, who are winning at the moment. I'd say I definitely prefer Birmingham's newer look. Next up, and to another very traditional club in the Championship, we have Blackburn Rovers, who, do you know what, I also think I'm going to go with the more modern design for Blackburn as well. Both badges obviously feature with the red rose of Lancashire, which is fitting well to each of them, but the newer, more modern look to it, I do just think it looks nicer overall. They've got the Latin on there as well. Yeah, it's another mark for the modern badges. Next up then to Bournemouth, who have kept this design of their badge fairly consistent over the past few years. They've just given it a bit more of a modern spin on it, putting it into that full shield. But you know what, I quite like the quirkiness of the older one here and how the football actually comes out of the badge a little bit. I'm sure it makes it awkward for like printing it on shirts and stuff like that, but that gets a bit of a markup for me. Obviously these badges have gone through like several changes throughout the years, so I've just picked out one of the particular older ones which I quite like the look of, but yeah, I'll give a mark for the older one there. I quite like that one. Next up then to Brentford, who do have one of the most modern badges that we're going to look at in today's video. They updated their latest one in only 2016. I mean, it's eye-catching, isn't it? You know, if you're looking at that as someone who's got no idea of what Brentford Football Club is, the new, more modern one probably is going to catch your eye with the B on there. But I think for me, I've got to give a vote here for the old one. As a traditional, like, football club badge, the old one's calling to me, whereas the new one just doesn't quite sing to me in that way. Also, I'm pretty sure that bees are supposed to have more than 4 legs, but hey, who knows. Next then we have Bristol City's new badge, who pretty much looked at Brentford's new badge and said, can we copy your homework? And Brentford said yes, as long as you make a couple of changes yourself so it looks like we've not copied each other. It's basically the same thing, it's just got a robin in there instead of a wasp. No, it's a bee. I keep thinking it's a wasp, but it's a bee. I think I prefer the old one. I'm just a sucker for tradition. Next then to Cardiff, who have kept this one fairly consistent. Obviously Cardiff went through that really weird period of their club's history when they had a red badge and red kit, but for the sake of Cardiff fans, we'll just forget that ever happened. For the sake of this one, I think I'm just swaying to the old one, you know? I think it's got a little bit more uniqueness to it instead of being in that, you know, newer, more modern shape. Next then to Coventry, who have been pretty consistent with their new badge actually. They've had this one for some time now, haven't they? And it does still have that traditional feel to it, which I like a lot. Obviously they've taken the stuff from the old one and just sort of like added to it. Someone's going to need to explain the elephant to me in the comments down below, but Coventry, yeah, definitely the new one. Next then to Derby County, who've recently actually gone back to one of their more traditional badges with their new badge that you can see on screen now, and I rate them for that. You know, previously they had this, but it was within the circle, and I think it looked better without it. You know, it's more eye-catching, it stands out a little bit more than being watered down by the boring circle that every football club's obsessed with these days. The mark goes for the new badge. Next then to Huddersfield Town. Now at one point they were rolling with this as their badge, but decided not to go forward with that, which I think ultimately was the right reasons. However, these are the two badges that we're going to be judging Huddersfield by. Basically the biggest change that they've made is they've moved the stars from outside the shield and on top of it to inside, and much smaller on the newer one. They've kept it fairly consistent for the updated badge. The stars really are the major change here, where if you look close enough on the new one they are still there, but I think it stands out more with the stars outside the badge on the original one, so I go for the older one for me. Next then for Luton Town, who have kept things fairly consistent over the years. They've just given a bit more of a modern look on their previous alteration. I think it's a nice effort, to be honest honest with you. They've got the year the club was founded on there as well. The hat ties everything all together quite nicely. Yeah, I'll give that to the new one. Next then to Middlesbrough, where you'll notice one of the major changes from this one are the dates on each badge. The new one dates Middlesbrough back to 1876, whereas the old one only dates Middlesbrough back to 1986. Basically, this was all to do with Middlesbrough's liquidation and then recovery from 86. And they basically wanted to revamp the new badge, I think in around 2007, to show the club's previous history. And for that reason, you've got to respect it, so I'll give it to the new badge. Next then for Millwall, with two pretty strong additions coming in for this video. I quite like each of them. The old badge that we're looking at, Millwall had during the early 1990s. Obviously, the new one is their most up-to-date badge, which they're using at the moment. And do you know what? I quite like the old one, how the line just jumps out at you. It's a little bit more detailed, it looks a little bit more intimidating to me. You know, it's unique by the fact that it jumps out of the shield a little bit. I'm a bit good that Millwall didn't stick with that one. I'm voting for the old one. Next up then for Norwich City, otherwise known as the Canaries. Now, their old badge was taken from around about the 1920s, and obviously the new one is their most up-to-date badge. And I think it is the modern one, which I prefer here. I think they've had this version of it since around the 70s, so still pretty traditional. If they were still rocking around with their old one, there's a time where things do start to become a little bit outdated. I think that would be the case. So yeah, the Norwich badge here, the new one does get my vote. Next then we go to Nottingham Forest, who I think a lot of what we just said about Norwich probably rings true for Forest here as well. You know, you respect all the traditions of the old badge, but the new one, which is still very traditional, you know, they've had this one since around the 70s, the new one definitely takes it for me in this one. It's simple, it's to the point, and when you look at that badge, you think of Nottingham Forest. It's also pretty unique as well. Like, if Forest were to one day slap that in the middle of like a generic shield or something like that, I'd be a little bit disappointed because I like what they're rolling with at the moment. Next then to Preston North End. Now, each of the badges that I picked out here, I quite like both of them, to be fair, for different reasons. There was one time when we were rocking about with this badge, which I really wasn't feeling, so I'm glad that we eventually went away from that one. But each of the badges here have their merits, I think, to be honest with you. I like how the newer badge has got the PP on it, you know, standing for Proud Preston, and they've still kept all the design features of that older badge whilst updating it and making it a bit more modern. So do you know what? I would give the vote here to the new badge for North End. Next then we go to QPR, who have gone back to a more traditional design actually with their newest update of their badge. And do you know what? I think I prefer this one to what they were rocking with previously. The other design they had looks all well and fancy and stuff like that, but sometimes less is more, and I'm giving the mark here for the newer QPR badge. Next up we then head to Reading, where I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of either of them, to be honest with you. The old one has the trees there and has Elm Park on it, obviously where Reading used to play their football up until 1998, when they then refreshed the badge when they moved stadiums. The older badge isn't really doing it for me, so I think I'd have to give this one to what Reading are rocking with at the moment. Next then for Rotherham United, I think I've got to give this one to the modern badge, to be honest with you. I think they went in this direction in 2005 to this sort of design shape. It's had a couple of updates since, but this is what they're rocking with at the moment, and compared to their old badge, which would look out of place at this point in time, wouldn't it? It's a little bit all over the place, that older badge, so yeah, gotta give it to the newer one for Rotherham. Next then to Sheffield Wednesday, who with their newest badge have actually gone back to a more traditional style for them, and I quite like the new one that Sheffield Wednesday have got on the pitch since they've gone to this new badge. They've not exactly been the most successful, but I don't mind either of them, to be honest with you, but the new look, I like it. Next up then we go to Stoke City, and it's quite the contrast between these two, between new and old, when it comes to Stoke's badges, and I think I prefer the new. This one is just a little bit more eye-catching, and when you look at that badge you think of Stoke City. You see the other one, I mean, no doubt there's loads of history there, but it's a little bit more cluttered. I like the stripes and the simplicity of the new one, so for me the new one for Stoke gets the nod. Next then we go to Swansea. Obviously their newest badge still has that quite simplistic, sleek style to it, and when you look at that you obviously think of Swansea. They've had loads of iterations of their badges as the years have gone on, but the older one that I picked out from the 1990s, it caught my eye. I quite like this one. Obviously there's quite the contrast in styles between these two, but I quite like the older one that I picked out, you know. Next then to Watford, who I can't lie, their badge has always confused me up until when I made this video and did a little bit of research looking into every team's badge. My thinking, probably along the lines of a lot of other people, was why are they known as the Hornets when they've got a moose on the badge? Well, as it turns out, it's not actually supposed to be a moose on the badge, it's actually a hart, which is obviously a male deer, and that's taken from the Hertfordshire coat of arms, obviously where Watford are from. The older badge does have the hornet on though, and for the sake of my sanity, I'm going to have to give it to the older one. And then finally for Wycombe, who have given a more modern spin to their traditional badge. They have the swan on there due to that being from the Buckinghamshire County emblem, and yeah, I'm going to have to give that one to the modern one. But guys, there we have it. There was every championship club and one of their traditional badges badges and one of their newer badges, and which one I personally prefer. Do you agree with my thoughts? Let me know down below. Obviously this video was just for a bit of fun, but I've enjoyed compiling it nonetheless. As always, if you did go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do subscribe and stick around for some regular Championship content. But other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.